My opening text I'd like to read to you is Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21, as I continue to talk about this is the way, walk in it. This morning specifically, I'm going to deal with the subject matter of turning the page. So Isaiah 30, 21 says, "Your ear shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, whenever you turn to the right or whenever you turn to the left." We could also translate that, whenever you turn to the right hand or whenever you turn to the left, your ear shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. We wouldn't do any harm to the Scripture. I find it to be interesting that there's only two places in Scripture where the Lord talks in a manner in which we recognize He is behind us. The one here in Isaiah chapter 30, the other is found in the book of Revelation when He's writing unto the 7 churches in Asia Minor. And He is behind them, and they heard the voice of the Lord behind them. And the reason that the Lord was behind them is they were in front of Him. The reason they heard the Lord's voice behind them is they got ahead of God. And getting ahead of God always gets us into a position where He is endeavoring out of His graciousness to lead us back to the right path. And so He calls because we've wandered to the right hand or to the left. And so He calls us by name back to Himself because we've gotten ahead of Him. Twice in the book of Proverbs, it states that there's a way that seems right unto a man, but its end is death. So along that road, it seems like everything is well, but at the end of that road, there's no reward. There's only sorrow and separation. Psalm 15, if you would please. The psalmist asks a couple questions as he begins to write unto the reader. And it says, "Lord, who may abide in your tabernacle, and who may dwell in your holy hill? He who walks uprightly and works righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart, he who does not backbite with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor does he take up a reproach against his friend, in whose eyes a vile person is despised. But he honors those who fear the Lord. He who swears to his own hurt and does not change, he who does not put out his money at usury or at interest, nor does he take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved." You know, in Scripture there's a correlation that exists between our personal pursuits and the development of our godly character and the ability to know God intimately. The psalmist promises that the person who walks with God gains an honorable reputation of godliness and an unshakable faith that will cause them never to be moved. These are truths that we need to pay attention to. Scripture said in the end times, everything that can be shaken will be shaken, but we are part of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And so since we are established in a new path and upon a new way, we need to maintain that path and maintain the way that we are called to walk. It's so easy in life to get distracted, to get, off course. And as I started off, I'm so grateful that the Lord still calls us by name and says, no, this is the way, walk in it, when we do wander and we miss the path that He has for us. The good work that God has begun, Scripture says He will be faithful to complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. We are a work in progress, and God is working to shape our character to reflect His glory and His goodness. And character is a matter of choice. It's not a matter of chance. Our reputation is the result of multitudes of decisions that we've made throughout the years that have caused others to decide whether they want to have a relationship with us or not, whether we're trustworthy, whether we have integrity, whether we're honorable people. Our lives, it said in Scripture, are an epistle or a book. And people are reading the story of our life by our attitudes and our actions and our words. They can read quite well where we're at. And when our story reflects the grace and the goodness of God, they can recognize a life that has been changed. And someone has turned the page in their life from darkness to light. Someone has moved away from ungodliness and moved towards godliness. And they recognize that at the turning of a page. And so this morning, I imagine each and every one of us, we're still in the month of January. It seems like we've been moving snow and fighting ice and, some days have been very long, but this is still the beginning of 2020, and it's still an opportune time to talk about turning the page, to talk about putting first things first, and about having our priorities in their proper place, about living responsible lives before our Creator. These are very, very significant subject matters that we can't stray from. I'm convinced that we need to hear these kind of messages because they align us back into a right relationship with God. They inspire our faith. They encourage us to obedience. And we don't need to hear them occasionally. There are messages throughout the years that I call maintenance messages. They're just good to hear over and over and over again. I have a vehicle that I change the oil in. I don't change it once in the life of the vehicle. There's maintenance with that vehicle. I change the oil whenever the oil needs to be changed. Whenever there needs to be the turning of the page and new oil needs to be brought into that vehicle, that's when I do it. I don't wait till everything breaks down. I don't wait till the vehicle's at the side of the road and then I figured, oh, I should have taken care of it. No, I have opportunity to maintain that vehicle so it runs at its top level of performance, the way that it was engineered. But it won't happen just because I maintenance it occasionally. It happens because I maintenance it consistently. And so is our life. We have to maintain our relationship with God. We can get, tricked by the culture. We can get fooled by other people or friends who believe they have good intentions, but whose standard is not the standard of Scripture. Whose walk of faith is more a walk of feelings, who have not learned who God is, but are endeavoring to create God in their image and have Him serve them. And with those mindsets that are prevalent in our culture today, to where we can do anything we want to do, live any way we want to live, behave in any manner we want to behave, in other words, live in disobedience and expect the full blessing of God, that is a very lost people. Those are people that have wandered to the right or to the left and graciously need to be reminded that that's not the way, don't walk in it, but this is the way, walk in it. If people wander down a path long enough, they forget how to get back to where they came from. And that is one of the great concerns with our nation today. If we forget our heritage, if we forget our founding fathers, and we forget what this nation fundamentally was placed upon, and we keep wandering from the foundation, pretty soon we don't have a foundation in anything, and anybody can take us out. History tells us, and we have to pay attention to history, that whenever people rebelled and rejected the counsel of God, it opened up their economy to fail. It also weakened their military, and it brought tremendous pain and conflict into that culture. We don't want to be in that position. We want to be in a position where our military is strong, our economy is strong, so that we can be a lighthouse and a blessing to the world. It's still a proven fact that America is the #1 contributing nation to world's missions. Not by a small means, but by a large percentage. 80% of world missions is accomplished because of this nation. Don't you believe the devil has a big, big agenda in trying to take down this nation because of that? Don't you think he's trying to rewrite the laws and change the script of this nation? I believe that he is. I think we are his #1 enemy. Not us personally, but the God in which we trust, the God in which we love, the God in which brought people here to found this nation. And these foundational truths must be preserved and protected. And listen, it is not done primarily through posting and protesting. It's done through prayer and obedience. It's one thing if I protest anything, I'm there for a few hours and I may get my picture in the paper and an article written about what I'm protesting. But the next day there's going to be another protest that will trump my protest, and therefore I will soon be forgotten. Because people drive by protests all the time. People drive by people that are against stuff, see things on social media of what they're against as much as what they're for. And so because of that, they just keep scrolling through their news feed. Anybody recognize? I mean, I don't want anything to do with that, no, yes. And we sort of, land where we want to land, and we don't land where we want to. And that's all personal preference. My point is this. If I would change my protest and be more prayerful and spend as much time in prayer as I am protesting, then God's presence can maintain an abiding presence in people's life to help them. I mean, my presence might be there for a few minutes, but if I pray for someone, then His presence remains with them. He goes with them. He talks with them. And how does He do it? If they are off the path, He cares about us so much. He loves us so much. And He doesn't want us to experience the sting of death and the consequences of death, that He warns us and says, this is the way, walk in it. That is not the voice of a tyrant. That is not the voice of a dictator. That is not the voice of someone who does not compassionately care about us. That is the voice of a good shepherd. This is the way, walk in it. So our pursuits really tell a lot about who we are as people. When I say pursuits, it's not something that we do lightly. It's something that we do vigorously. It's wholehearted, that we put something in to what we pursue. If you pursue anything with a mediocrity, then you'll get an average result. If you pursue something passionately, then you will get something that you're much more proud of. Now, most of us put a little bit of effort into something and hoping that we'll get a return. We want a little investment, we want a great return. Can you identify with that as human beings? We want a little bit of effort and we want maximum potential. No athlete ever reached their potential by giving a half-hearted effort. No musician ever just went through their arpeggios half-heartedly. By arpeggios. No one did that. But they put their hand to something and they did it long enough and with enough discipline and with enough encouragement and coaching that they honed a skill that everyone comes and pays money to watch. It's way beyond entertaining. It's amazing. It's amazing to go and watch world-class athletes perform. We have the privilege occasionally of going up, if you're a track person, and going to the Blue Oval and you watch these athletes perform during the Drake relays. And they have the high school level, and then they have the collegiate level, and then they have this world-class level. And with every level, there was a degree of commitment that someone had to be willing to make to hone their skills. And yes, I think part of it is a genetic gift. DNA, you have to have the right genes. In other words, I can't play basketball in the NBA. I'm trying to play it at the YMCA. And even then, if I go for a layup and show the ball, it's thrown in my face. There's skills that these people have. And when you watch them perform on this track, it's almost effortless. But I promise you, it took a lot of work for it to become that smooth and that seamless. It didn't happen without a watchful eye, without someone paying the price and going through the whole rigor of the regiment of being able to run at that level. And we all sit there in awe. How did they run? It looked like they were just gliding, just almost walking on air. They were so smooth. It's just glorious to watch. I run occasionally and I'm a plotter. You know what a plotter is? I know how to run. I know the proper technique, heel toe, and one foot in front of the other. I could write a book on that. Chapter 1, put your shoes on. Chapter 2, tie your shoes. Chapter 3, get outside and run heel toe until you can't run anymore. I get it. But somewhere along the heel toe and me having good form, plodding comes in. It's like a herd of elephants. You can hear them a mile away. I'm coming around the corner. Where's Pastor Doug? He's finishing up his run. I wouldn't call it a run at that time. I'm just calling it an endurance race to the very end. And I have this imaginary line in my cul-de-sac that I cross when the weather's nice, because I'm a fair weather runner, which means I'm not really committed to being a good runner. And so I run seasonally. I don't run in all seasons because I'm not interested in, getting out right now and running. And I have this imaginary line, and when I cross it, I am the greatest runner, at least on Depot Street, that has ever existed. People line up at the streets to hear my plodding as I come. And they wave, oh, there's that nutty pastor running again. What is he doing? Right. The point is, and it's a very apropos point, is that what we pursue, people identify. They recognize people turning pages in their life. Let me ask you a couple questions, and then we'll get into the rest of the message. All of this isn't even in my notes. So far, we're just in the introduction. You say, oh boy. No, it'll go smoothly, I promise. But is there something you'd like to turn the page with relationally? What about vocationally? What about financially? What about with your health? What about with your self-esteem? I mean, is there a new chapter that you actually can identify that I would like my life to look different in this next chapter than it's what it's looked like in previous chapters? That's what turning the page is all about. That's why Jesus came. Jesus came so we could turn the page. And, you know, sin had us all just knee-deep in mud. And we couldn't get out. And He pulled us out of the miry clay and He put our feet on the rock. And He has now given us and established a new way for us to live. And He's continuing to work with us. He's continuing to get rid of the mud and the dirt and the mire and the clay and all the residue of sin in our life, and continuing to polish us so that He can present us unto Himself, His own people, His own special people. We have a dog named Max. Max is a gorgeous dog. Now, when we first were introduced to Max, Max was a mess. Max was a mutt. Max had no resemblance of what he is today. When we first met Max, he was kenneled 8 to 10 hours a day, minimum. And so he was stir crazy. The dog was as loony as a bat. And we went to this house to discover whether we wanted Max in our home or not. Shar was trying to convince me all the way to the house of these people who had Max that we needed a new pet. And I wasn't quite convinced yet. And so we walk into their home, they let Max out, and for the next 15 minutes, I'm even more convinced that taking Max home would be the biggest mistake that we had made. That the half-hour drive to their home was nice, but Max can stay in their home and drive them nuts. But Charlene saw something in this dog that was redeemable. I didn't see it. She saw potential, undeveloped potential. She saw a dog that needed to be cleaned and groomed, a dog that needed to be trained and invested in, and now that dog is the best dog in Marion County. I'll put him against your dog and your mama's dog any day of the week. Max is the man. He's no longer a mutt. He is a pedigree. He is a shining example of what you want your dog to be. I promise you, and I say that because someone invested in him. Took all of the dirt, all the mire, clipped his nails, cleaned his teeth, taught him tricks, took him out of his cage and let him run around the house, gave him a bed to sleep in, gave him good food to eat, gave him fresh water every day, would take him out for walks. I won't run in the winter, but I am so endeared to this dog that he has me trained to take him out in sub-zero temperatures. Amazing. And that's the condition in which God found us. The world said they're not worth investing in. There's no potential. They've just wasted their life. They don't have a future. And Jesus said, I see potential in them. I see possibility. And He's going to teach us how to walk. And He's going to teach us how to live. And He's going to teach us how to trust and believe and to open up our heart. And to actually imagine that we can have a new day and a new beginning. It doesn't matter how old you are biologically. In Christ, all things can be made new. And then He'll show you off and say, yeah, the world said that they were a loser, they were a loner, they were guilty, And yes, according to the world standards, maybe we were, but according to God's standards, we were valuable, we were precious, we were a prized possession that just needed someone to invest in them and clean them up. And Jesus made an investment in mankind. He gave His blood. The most valuable gift He could give was His life, and He gave it for us. And therefore, we should consider what He's saying unto us, and that His ways are right. Our ways lead down paths of complete, utter exhaustion and lostness. Is that a word? It is right now, lostness. Use it in Scrabble. It's worth 50 points. We don't want to be lost. We want to be accepted. We don't want to be abandoned. We want to belong. And that's what Jesus has done for us. Psalms 15 describes the difference between those who know God from a distance and those who know Him personally. You might not think of yourself as a person who has an intimate or personal relationship with God. And this morning I want to encourage you to turn the page in your thinking. When I use the word intimate or personal to describe a relationship with God, you may be scratching your head and asking yourself, who, me? Me? Or perhaps it conjures up an image of a person who prays and studies Scripture throughout the day, and you say, that's not me. But chances are, there is something in you that believes that this is true, that you were created by God for God. Here's the struggle, though. We wonder how. How does that actually look? How does it actually work? I mean, I can't quit my job and study Scripture and pray all day, but listen, God's never asked you to do that. He's asked you to work as unto Him. Therefore, work is honorable, and He's given you a vocation and skills and a place to apply them, and He wants you to do it for His glory. That's very, very important. Not only for your self-esteem, but just for your future and the financial future of your family. It's very, very honorable. See, the devil takes some truths and he takes them to what I would call unrealistic expectations. That, you know, if you were really spiritual, if you were really a godly person, if you were really serving and walking with God, that you would be perfect and without any flaws whatsoever. But as long as you have flesh, God is going to be dealing with us as a father deals with his children. Because the flesh is the flesh and its nature will never change. Somehow we conjure up these ideas because the enemy paints this picture. You're not really spiritual because you don't read the Bible enough. You don't pray enough. You don't witness enough. You don't give enough. You don't serve enough. And he tries to pull us over into this pattern of doing works to try to find our identity or acceptance instead of just accepting the completed work of Jesus and finding our identity in Him and then working from that place of identifying with Him. It is a real, real good trick that he plays with us. I feel good because I do something. Where God just wants us to feel good because we are somebody. And from that knowing who we are, we do all the good things that we do because it's an expression of what God has made us. We can't help but do it. It's a desire that is birthed within us through His Spirit. So today, I pray as you'll hear the rest of this message, that you'll be able to turn the page in your thinking and see that walking with God is a real possibility. I want to prove to you or show you that there's a desire that you actually have for a closer and a more personal relationship with God. And in order to do this, let me ask you a few questions. Now, I'm going to ask for your participation. And since I've invited all of you to participate, please, please entertain me. All right, I'm going to ask these questions. If they apply to you, you can just raise your hand and you can put it down. You don't have to leave it up. All right, have you ever faced a crisis in life and asked, why, Lord? Have you ever been lonely or felt isolated and desired comfort? Have you ever felt the sting of guilt, shame, or regret and longed for forgiveness and another opportunity to get it right? All right. If the answer is yes, and I would say, based on a random poll that we've just taken here this morning, that the answer is yes, then there's a part of you that longs for a relationship with God. Because you know intuitively, you know on the inside of you that He is there and you're wanting His help. Whether it's in a crisis of life, whether it's loneliness where you need comfort, or where it's sin where you need forgiveness. All of us know that we need Him. The acknowledgement of that need allows Him to reveal Himself to us. The reader of Psalm 15 knows something. He knows that the tabernacle and the holy hill of God are sacred places. Not only does the psalmist know that, all the readers of this psalm know. When he asks, who will abide in your tabernacle and who may dwell in your holy hill? He's talking about real special and sacred places there. And sometimes we feel we do not have access to. We don't feel we're worthy. We feel that we have missed the boat. As a matter of fact, we didn't even have a ticket for the boat. We showed up at the dock and expected to get on, and we were rejected. And so when he asks this question, the readers come to this conclusion. No one. No one. No one can go into the tabernacle. One man, one time a year can go into the tabernacle. The high priest, that's it. And no one can go to the holy hill. No one can ascend up into this place. Only one man did, and he barely made it out to the mountain of God. And so we're not that one individual. That's for other people, not for us. And therefore, we sort of put our relationship with God to be lived through other people, through other authors, through other speakers, through other people's testimonies. But we don't believe that our life can have a valid testimony. We haven't turned the page to believe that God makes all things new for everyone. And since that's the case, and we can all identify with this, the psalmist asks us not to stop in reading the first verse, but to continue to read and to understand as he continues to write. He wants the readers to know that in verses 2 through 5, that he shares that these sacred places are available not by chance, but by our choice. A choice to pursue, wholeheartedly seek what is right in the eyes of God. And this is what he's saying. Who will be able to have access? Who can go into these places? And then he begins to list. Their walk is upright or blameless. They work or they exert effort towards those things that are right before God. They tell the truth. They don't backbite or gossip. They're good neighbors. They're true friends. They show honor to those who fear and reverence and awe and respect the Lord. They keep their word. They lend money to those in need without interest. They would never consider taking a bribe, no matter how it would benefit them, especially against the innocent, never. They would stand up for the innocent, and they would stand up for justice. It says clearly, those that pursue God by turning the page in their mind and then allowing it to turn a page in their attitudes and their lifestyles, they will never be shaken. The end of this psalm is this wonderful promise that those that pursue God, that pursue godliness, that pursue a relationship with God wholeheartedly, go down that path and give it everything that they have, just like the athlete does, just like Charlene did with Max, and put every ounce of energy that they have back into that road, they will never be shaken. They will never struggle again with loneliness or a need of comfort or forgiveness. Where to go for those things, who to look to for those things. Where can they find those things? They know where they can find them because in their pursuit of God, He shaped them to be His people who bear His name and glorify Him with His fruit. This is not a one and done deal. This doesn't happen when we just occasionally decide that we need God because we're having a down day. This happens consistently over a period of time. Days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years. And if you keep doing what's right every day, it turns into doing what's right over months and years. And what happens is you continue to get groomed and you get more beautiful. And pretty soon you are one of God's trophies that He shows off to the world and says, this is what happens to people who will allow me to turn the page in their life and show them the next chapter. This is what I make of people. This is what I do in people's life. This is where I take people. This is where I guide people. This is me in the life of my people. I am their God and they are my people. And my hand is on them and my fingerprints are on them. And the way they're living sets them apart from everyone else in society. They are my light. They are my salt. They are my people. They are my ambassadors. They are my ministers of reconciliation. They're mine. And I know them all. I can call them all by name. I know when they lie down and I know when they wake up. Every tear they've cried, I preserve for them, and one day I'll present it to them in a bottle. Every heartache that they've ever gone through, every disappointment, every lonely moment, every what looked like failure, when they looked to me, I turned it around because they turned the page. They didn't keep it to themselves. They didn't rely on the horoscope. They didn't go talk to Fannie Mae. They didn't go to the coffee shop and become gossipers. They didn't turn it into something that was perverted or wrong or evil or selfish. They turned it into something that's right. They kept pursuing what was right because it was the right thing to do. I wish I could tell you that every time you do something right, you'll get the right result, but sometimes it takes a little while. The president of my Bible school that I went to said, you know, God pays, but not every Friday is payday. You know, along this road, there in this path where character is developed and where Christ becomes more intimate to us and we become more personal with Him, there are three things that the psalmist said are vital to any healthy relationship. And if you haven't written anything down, you better consider writing this down. These are the three keys that he talked about if you want to have a closer relationship with God. Number one, you've got to respect God. Number two, you have to trust God. And number three, you have to learn how to communicate with God. If you have those things in any relationship, it will never be shaken, including God. If you have respect in a relationship, there's no reason to go anyplace else. You have a relationship with that person. If you trust that person, if you communicate with that person, then you have an unshakable foundation that will cause you to be strong, cause you to be courageous, cause you to have confidence. And those just aren't words. That is something that happens within the framework of who you are as a person. People can't push you off point. They'll try, but they won't be able to persuade you that, no, God has changed and this is the way we need to go. Because when I respect or fear God, I'll say, no, this is the way. I've heard His voice behind me enough. Listen, honey, I've heard it behind me enough. I've gotten ahead of Him enough times. Are you with me? I've wandered to the right or to the left. I know He knows my name because I hear Him behind me saying, Doug, don't do that again. You won't get a different result. Hey, wake up, Doug. Hello. Are you there? Don't do it. Don't do it again thinking I'm going to change my standard and lower it to your standard. No, just keep doing what's right by me and my word, and I will honor my word, and you therefore will be taken care of and not be shaken. You won't be so nervous. You won't have low self-esteem. You won't have social issues. Are you with me? This remedies a lot of issues in our life. The proper pursuit of God, turning the page, allowing Him to continue the righteous story of His redemption in our life so that we really are an epistle known and read of all men that glorify the Lord. Here's a classic example. I once was lost, finish the phrase, but now that's turning the page. Someone turns the page. You didn't say I'm still lost. What you say is I'm not lost anymore, I'm found. That's what this message is about, and that's what this year is about. It's about Forgetting those things that are behind and pressing on to what's ahead. Today's the day the Lord has made. Today, we'll rejoice and be glad in it. Of all the things that we faced yesterday, they can't compare to the mercies of God that are here for us today. They're greater. So the quality of our relationship with God is built on respect, trust, and communication. When we accept God's Word as the standard, we show Him respect. When we commit to follow God's Word regardless of what it costs us, we show Him trust. When we converse, share, and listen with Him about the matters of His Word in our lives, our communication flows more confidently and freely between our Father and ourselves. Jeremiah 29:13 says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. This is the way, walk in it." Let's turn the page. God shares His secrets with those that seek Him. Turning the page begins with our relationship with God. This leads to our priorities getting realigned, which in turn causes us to pursue a godly way of living or godliness. I want to encourage you to find now 1 Timothy chapter 4 as we're closing. 1 Timothy chapter 4. And I want to show you that this pursuit actually does pay and is worth the price that you and I have to pay in order to walk this path. 1 Timothy chapter 4, we're going to begin in the 8th verse. It says, "Bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable for all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptance. For to this end we both labor and suffer reproach." We work, we pursue, we put every ounce of energy we have into this because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially those who believe. These things command and teach. The greatest tragedy of missing this process of pursuing God first, getting our priorities aligned by Him and by His purposes, and then pursuing a godly life. The tragedy of missing how this process happens or missing the process altogether isn't that your marriage will fail or that you'll be ruined financially or your faith will flounder or your health will go in the tank. No, all of those things are very tragic. But the greatest tragedy of not having a relationship with God and pursuing His way of living is that you'll gain the world, but you'll lose your soul. The tragedy is that you'll actually succeed, and in succeeding, you'll actually fail. The tragedy of not pursuing God, of not first having a relationship with Him that allows Him to shape our priorities and allows Him to guide and govern our lives through a godly lifestyle. The problem isn't that you'll fail. The problem is that the world will say, you succeeded. You're a self-made man. You're a self-made woman. You have a good business. You have good health. You have money in the bank. There's plenty of people like that in society today. But they don't have God. So in the end, all that they've gained would be a loss. What would happen if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? There's no gain there. It's only a loss. But pursuing God pays dividends now. God will take care of you now and in the life to come. So who can go to these sacred places? Who can ascend to these places? Anybody who chooses to because of Jesus. Anyone. Anyone can come to the Father because of Jesus. Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Anyone can have a relationship. Anyone can turn the page and go from darkness to light. Anyone can go from being buried in debt to being financially free. Anyone can go in from, low self-esteem to having confidence and feeling good about themselves, looking in the mirror and not having self-hate talk, but knowing that they're valuable and precious before the Lord and eternally loved. Anyone can turn the page. Anyone can turn the page relationally. Anyone. Just turn the page. That may take every ounce of effort that you have and every amount of faith that you have, but it's worth the results. If you stay on the same page, you just keep reading the same report, and the report is not one you're happy with, so turn the page and let Him write a different story. Let Him change the narrative. Let Him come in. Let His standard be your standard. Let His way be your way. Let His word guide and govern you. So who can come? Anyone. Why? Because Jesus has made that way.
Thank you for watching today's message. If you'd like to know more about today's message or the ministry here at Living Word Fellowship in Knoxville, Iowa, please call 641-828-7119 or visit us online at lwfknoxville.com. If you are in the Knoxville, Iowa area, please stop by and see us on Sundays at 10 a.m. or Wednesdays at 7 p.m. at 321 East Robinson, where there's always something for everyone.